Okay. Happy Friday. Good
Happy
afternoon.
Friday.
Thanks for being with us, everybody. My name is Ashley Jones. I'm with the Venture Center, and today we bring you the July version of Lift the Rock. This is going to be all about featuring our Pitch and Pint winners, first, second, third, and audience choice winners. They're going to take a deep dive into their businesses, you know, how it came to fruition, the ups and downs, the challenges they've experienced, and any advice they have for some budding entrepreneurs in the future. But before we get into that, I do want to give a big thank you to our sponsors, the Little Rock Regional Chamber, Frost Accounting Firm, Simmons Bank, Wright Lindsay Jennings, and Central Arkansas Water, and Entergy. As many of you may know, that the Venture Center is an entrepreneurial support organization. We provide a number of programs throughout the year on all different types of topics. And some of those programs that we have coming up on July 23rd, we have a Lunch and Learn featuring the latest cohort from the FIS FinTech Accelerator. So outside of community programs, we also run 2 financial technology accelerators every year. So we'll feature a few of those founders from this latest FIS cohort. That'll be again July 23rd from noon to 1, so be sure to register for that. Also on July 30th, we're continuing our VC Health series. This is a series we kicked off in January of this year, focusing on entrepreneurship and mental health. This next one is focusing a little bit on travel and vacations and why they're necessary for mental health, whether you're an entrepreneur or not. So that'll be July 30th from noon to 1. So we encourage everyone to participate in that. Go ahead and register. For that, you can do that on our website. If you haven't signed up for the Venture Center's newsletter, you can do that as well. Follow us on social media. We're on all the different platforms, and we hope to see you on those in the future. So let's move on to today's topic, Pitch and Pint, the winners. If you didn't attend Pitch and Pint, or if you did, I'll give a little recap before we dive into the Q&A part of this. So the whole idea of Pitch and Pint, it was a statewide pitch competition for people of color, women, veterans, businesses that were negatively impacted by COVID-19 and whose annual recurring revenue and or sales were less than $100,000. Some of our partners, we had presenting sponsors that helped make this event possible. Venture Noire was one of the presenting sponsors, as well as the ASBTDC. So we want to give a shout out to them for helping support these efforts, as well as some corporate sponsors, Wright Lindsay Jennings, Simmons Bank, and Frost. So with the Pitch and Pint competition, there were dozens of applicants, and from that, 10 were selected to participate in Pitch and Pint. They were chosen by a selection committee, and they all participated in a workshop and some coaching to help get their pitches in order. And then on the day of the event, they all presented a 3-minute pitch. Am I bringing back memories for you ladies? It's like a little horror story. They all presented a 3-minute pitch to present their business to a panel of judges in the audience. And first, second, and third places were chosen by the judges, and audience choice was, of course, chosen by the audience. So today's Lift the Rock is going to feature, like I said, all of the winners, and we're going to dive into some questions now. So first, I just want all of you to introduce yourself, and I'll call on one of you to start. Talk about the problem that you recognized in your industry and how your business is working to solve that problem. So in a nutshell, just introduce yourself and tell us your origin story. Nicole, I want to start with you.
Okay, so I'm Nicole Winstead. I'm the owner of WoofCat. And what that is an organic, low ingredient pet treat company. Okay, so Ashley, ask me the question one more time, sorry.
What's your origin story? How did it start?
I started back in 2016. I started making treats for the dogs that I had been rescuing. And just simply because it had just become too costly. And so I decided to do some research and found out that I could make my own treats, and then found out the treats that I was giving my dogs had garbage ingredients in it, and I wasn't going for it. So I decided to make my own and shared them with friends and started selling at Etsy festivals and different festivals. And here I am.
And here you are, and we're happy for it. Thank you so much, Nicole. Up next, same question, Samantha with Certified Pies. What's your origin story?
Hey, yes, so my name is Samantha Stewart. I'm one of the owners of Certified Pies. We actually got officially started in October of 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. Where we got started from is actually pre-pandemic. Just as a side hustle, husband and I had a meal prep company. And of course, with the pandemic, things just got crazy and we had to shut that down. So we had to kind of just re-innovate ourselves. And so we brought a partner in by way of one of our good best friends. And we collaborated and we wanted to make an impact in the pizza space by bringing Arkansas the only Black-owned pizza business in the state. So, and that's what we've been doing. And we've been rolling ever since. It's coming up on a year.
Fantastic. Thanks for being with us today, Samantha. Next up, Ayana Baraka with Edamame Films. Same question. What's your origin story?
Sure. So my company is called Edamame Films. We provide virtual reality and motion picture industry solutions ranging from production services to educational tools. And really it started with my having worked in the film industry for a very long time. I don't want to age myself. For a very long time, and just understanding the disparities in the film industry. So of the top 250 films in 2019, 21% of department heads were comprised of women and 5% were lensed by women. So women who shot the film like me, that's only 5%. For the BIPOC community, 1.3 out of 10 films between 2011 and 2017 were directed by people of color. So that's all people of color, only 1.3. So really, that's why I started this company. We're a unique business that addresses the systemic issues of the film industry in two ways. By creating content about and for women, BIPOC, and disenfranchised communities, and providing training and rental services by women and women of color in the film industry.
Fantastic. That's such great work that you're doing, Ayana, and thanks for being with us today. And also April Roy, go ahead, introduce yourself and tell us your origin story.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is April Roy, and I am the founder and CEO of FemPAQ, where we take the oops out of unexpected periods. We basically wanted to make menstrual hygiene care more accessible in every space that menstruators exist. And so I started this company back in 2018 after a girls' trip with one of my besties. She got her period unexpectedly. We, went to Walgreens and CVS, thought we could find something quick, convenient, and sustainable, and there wasn't a solution. And so when I started to research it, there really wasn't anything out there for us. And we all knew we had this problem, but no one was solving it. And so we stepped in to do so.
Fantastic. Can't wait to learn more about these companies as we keep asking these questions. So let's go to the next one. So this next question is going to focus on the pivot. In the industry, it's when you make a change that affects, portions of your business. So a lot of times the business you're running now looks a lot different from the business that you thought you were going to start at the beginning. So I want to explore this topic and ask, has your business changed since the idea popped into your head, and if so, how? So we'll start with April here on this one.
Well, I will say my target market changed because originally when I started this, I never saw it on scale. I was just like, hey, we could put it in boutiques and, a few travel centers, airports, and hotels. But then the pandemic happened. And so we really started to focus on learning more about menstrual health and menstrual hygiene, and how actually it wasn't just those industries, it was pretty much every industry. And so that's what we pivoted to, was we brought it on our audience We made availability for people to make donations to charitable organizations. And so even though we're still targeting the travel and hospitality industry, we just realized it was a little more broader than what we were thinking.
Fantastic. And that's a good point to make, because you don't want to pigeonhole yourself or get too nichey, so to speak. So that's amazing that you figured that out and were able to kind of broaden their horizons without getting too far out of scope. So congratulations on that. Ayana, what about you? Any changes?
Yes, so we changed to include training because it's important for us to know what roles exist and that we can exist within those roles. And we also changed in order to change with the times. So we now include immersive technology, which is virtual reality. So we saw that folks were needing educational tools to talk about history and to talk about racism. So we created a tool, we created a content that schools are now using in Chicago, LA, across the country, New York, in order to teach students. So just creating a new thing to help teach students.
That's fantastic. And education is key no matter what industry. So that's fantastic that you're leading those efforts there with your business. Samantha, what about you? Certified Pies, the pizza shop. What changes did you see?
Oh man, we're constantly making changes because when we started this business, we, and even now currently we're operating out of a commercial shared kitchen. So, we've had to limit kind of our hours of when we're open. And we've had to change our ordering style. Initially, of course, we want this to be a restaurant, but we are not in a brick and mortar that, is conducive, I guess, to, drive through and or a dine-in. We don't have a dine-in space, which is something that we're working towards. So for now, we've had to switch from just, people calling in to scheduling pre-orders, knowing when they can pick it up, giving them a window of time of when their order is going to be ready. So they're not waiting, customers aren't waiting. And, when we started this, it was obviously dead center of the pandemic. So, everything was curbside and, just kind of delivery. So we had to, deal with that no contact method. And so it's all been definitely a lot of changes to make sure we keep up and stay safe ultimately.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's so important, especially in the restaurant industry, which has been so affected over the last year or so. So kudos for you for keeping up with everything. Nicole, same question for you. How has your business changed from the inception?
Well, I had been really selling my treats at festivals and different farmers markets. And of course, when the pandemic hit, that all shut down. So I had to kind of just think about what that was going to look like for me within the pet industry. And I decided to take my company to e-commerce, which made it more accessible to not just local individuals, but to on a national level. But also what helped, or how I pivoted and it was more of a mindset. I started to understand and to notice that during times like this, during a pandemic, there is a scarcity for food for pets and for the people who own them, which is it's a scary thing for people who have pets, because if they're anything like me, they'll feed their pets before they'll feed themselves. And there was a scarcity of food for people, and along with the scarcity of food for animals. So that's something that I'm trying to research and figure out how we can help in the future if this ever comes up again, especially with people who are homeless and have their pets with them as well. So
absolutely. And this next question, I feel like we could spend hours on this topic and invite every entrepreneur to participate in a roundtable and just vomit information. But it's really, what's been the hardest part about running a business? Anything general, even to very specific in your industry. the hardest part about running your business? And I want to open those questions up to the attendees too. Feel free to throw in the chat. What's been the hardest part about running your business as the participants answer? Nicole, go ahead.
Oh, wow. Okay. So let me just, I guess, pick something specific. And I guess for me, what I am learning like right now in this moment is not to judge where I am based upon anybody else, because everybody's journey is completely different. And we have a tendency as a society to be very comparison. Oh, look what they're doing. It doesn't look like mine, and theirs is a whole lot better. And especially with social media, especially with Instagram, you look at people's pages and you're like, whoa, they've got all this together, and they literally probably don't. So I think that's been the hardest thing, is trying to really figure out what and who I am based upon who I am and what I'm trying to do, not based upon what I'm seeing. So that's been the biggest challenge.
And that's such a good point to make, because I think whether you're an entrepreneur or just an individual, that's hard in general, and social media does make that extremely difficult. You have to put your blinders on sometimes to stay focused. Thanks for bringing that up. Samantha, what about you? Hardest part about running a business?
I think the most challenging part for us is I think just adapting to change, because we're currently in a space that we're having to change a lot, whether that be the way we operate, or how many employees do we have, what's the right fit, and there's so much going on, I think, in society now with political things changing. With the pandemic, you've got minimum wage. What is that going to be? How's that going to be affected? And as a small business, that directly impacts our bottom dollar, because we don't have, the funding of a corporation or, something of that nature. So we're having to pay attention to all of that and be able to adapt, and make sure that we're still able to, do what we want to do, serve the community the way we want to serve the community, and also still just keep going. So it's, change is inevitable, but it is very challenging to keep up with.
Absolutely. Such a good point. Thanks for sharing that. Ayana, what about you?
All of it. So I became an entrepreneur out of complete necessity. As a filmmaker, it became evident that in order to pursue this well, I needed to also be business minded, and that doesn't come naturally to me. So that's been the biggest challenge, is overcoming that, and and every year I learn something new. This is something I need to implement and bring into my business so that we can be profitable and keep going. So.
And that makes so much sense. It's kind of the battle of left brain, right brain, the creativity versus the business mindset. Sometimes, you have one that's super heavy and the other that's a little weak, and just knowing, one, it's recognizing that, and it's two, being able to fill the holes that you're not able to. So that's fantastic if you've, been able to identify that and adapt. It's so important. April, what about you?
I would say imposter syndrome has been one of my biggest things, just because, I have a tendency to tell people like, oh, well, I don't know everything, and which I don't. And that's one thing I pride myself on, is that I never assume that I know, but I will go and Google the hell out of something and learn. And so sometimes I realize that I can put myself down, and then I'll have people come in and be like, oh, well, let me help you and let me do this. But then you realize, like Michelle Obama said, they don't know either. It's just like, because they have the confidence that they know. And it's like, I need to have that confidence too, because I know, even though I'll say, I don't know, just because the whole, again, imposter syndrome has been one of my biggest things. And I'm fighting with that every single day. One day I'll get there. I say, I have an affirmation song I listen to every morning. I look in the mirror, sing that song, and I'm talking to myself. So that has been something that I've been really working on. So yeah, imposter syndrome is very real.
It is very real, and I think a lot of people experience it, and so, you know, I think that's helpful in sharing what's the hardest part, because there are other entrepreneurs and people out there that experience it too. So it's fantastic that we're able to open up and share and be vulnerable and talk to people about this, because the more that we do it, the more accepting everyone is of it. So on the flip side of that question, let's move to the happy side. So another part of running a business is the successes. No matter how small, it's important to recognize them and share those. Those are the little wins really are helpful. So I want to look at that side of it, and, you know, what's been the most rewarding part of running a business? And go ahead, April.
Other people come up to me. I was just telling you this, Ashley. People come up to me and say all the time, oh my God, I know all about FemPAQ. And I'm like, really? Oh my God, which is awesome and very rewarding. But it still kind of weirds me out that, like, oh, people know who we are and what we do, you know? So I think that, and the support of strangers, all of my biggest supporters are people that I didn't know at first, you know, and I love that. I always tell people that, oh my God, I love that you thought about me. Like, that is so rewarding to me. Last year we had a lot of little wins, but, you know, with everything going on, I just never said anything, you know, and so, because I felt bad about those wins, even though, you know, I was happy to have them. And so now things are happening. We had some really great news yesterday. I can't say anything, but y'all stay tuned. And so, yeah, like, again, all of the success, I'm happy that, because other people are pouring into us. So that's how I thrive off of that energy.
That's fantastic. And you're so exuberant and excited. I feel like what you put out into the world is what you get back. So if that's the case, you're, you know, in fantastic, you know, standing. So kudos to you. Want to ask the same question. What's been the most rewarding part of running your business, Samantha?
Oh man, I mean, people love our food. You know, when we set out to start this, you know, we kind of had a, you know, we knew we liked our food, but would everybody else like our food and be willing to pay for it? You know, and people have different taste buds. You always have to worry, you know, there's all these other, you know, pizza companies that are out here, and there's, you know, everybody has their favorite right now. So what would make us that much different for them to come out of their way to, you know, frequent our business? And just like April said, the reviews, I mean, the acknowledgement, people that share the post, and, you know, the Googles and some of these, you know, reviews, these people are funny. They make us laugh all the time. But that has honestly been the most rewarding thing, is to, you know that we're bringing the community quality product, and you know, and it shows with everything that they've been saying about us. So yeah.
That's fantastic. What about you, Nicole?
I think probably for me is the ability that I give myself permission to be creative every day, and that it's on my terms, in my hours, and in my space and where I call it. And then probably every time I see a dog love eating my treats, that it's just every single time. You would think it would get old, but every time it happens, I'm kind of like how Samantha is. Are they gonna like it? Oh my God, what if they don't like it? What if they spit it out? What if, you know, and then when you see them eat it and then they want more, it's like a it's like a high every time it happens. So yeah.
What about you, Ayana?
So the most rewarding part of owning my own production company is being able to create a culture of inclusion in an industry that doesn't have a lot of grace for us. and then being able to create those opportunities, because I remember when I first started, I had someone throw my breakfast on the ground. It was not a culture that was very inclusive. So now being able to do that for other folks and train other women, I think is the best feeling, because like folks will leave me and go on and do amazing things. And even if it's just like one person at a time, it's still it has a huge impact on me, and keeps me going and teaches me a lot. And then the other thing is the content that we create. We had a young girl at one of our screenings who asked her father for the poster of 3 women that were the stars of our film. And she was cheesing. And then at the end of it, she came back to me and asked me for an autograph, because she saw herself in the characters and she saw herself in me, so she saw what she could possibly be in the future. So I think that was a huge impact, and keeps me going.
Oh, I love that so much. Thanks for sharing that. Want to look at, every business owner thinks about the future. What does the next 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years look like? So if you had that magic crystal ball, what do the next 5 years look like? Or what do you hope that they look like? Ayana, let's start with you.
So I have to mention this or my director's gonna be really mad. So I'm producing a feature film that's gonna be shot here in Northwest Arkansas. It's called Late Bloomers. It's a psychological thriller that centers 2 Black women on their last road trip together, complicated by the fact that one of them is starting to lose her grip on reality. So that's our next thing. That's like the soonest thing. And then for, I guess, in the future, for like 10 years down the road, I mean, I have it well thought out, but I'm not gonna, I don't know, let me think about it.
Sure. I do want you to speak a little bit more to the training, because I think that's so important. And you touched on, if you can see it, you can be it. So talk to us a little bit about that training and why that's so important and necessary and how you're looking to do that.
Yes. So one of the emerging technologies that I think that is going to remain is virtual shooting. So we see the most recent film is what was the name of it? Starts with an M. Mandalorian. Sorry, The Mandalorian was all shot in virtual production. So that just means that it's basically like a huge TV that characters were placed in front of, and then the environment is moving as they shoot. And it's very costly to create productions like that, but we've been able to, create productions, created by us, and been able to get sponsors for these things. So at our company, we're literally creating the content and providing the opportunities for these women. So it's just going to multiply. The catch-22 with how it is now is folks are asking, well, what's your experience? And a lot of times you don't have that experience, because in order to get on these multi-million-dollar productions, you have to have experience. So we're creating that. And the women that I train will go on to train more women. So I think it's just going to multiply. And 10 years down the line, that's what we're hoping, is that, we're not needed anymore.
That's fantastic. Work yourself out of a job, right? Like that's the goal of every entrepreneur. That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. That's so important. Nicole, what about you? What's next for WoofCat?
So let's see. So I think probably the main thing that I'd like to see in about 5 years is to take WoofCat's company philosophy, that we all have pets in common, and help the pet industry to become more inclusive. It's not something that I talked about at the beginning, because when I started my business, it was literally just about dogs and just about making treats. But as I started to get involved in the pet industry and educate myself more about it, there are not a whole lot of people that look like me within the pet industry. And social media really does not highlight us enough as pet owners or as pet business owners as well. So I would like to take that philosophy that we have and start highlighting pet businesses and pet parents of color and start bringing them more to the forefront and see if we can use that as a catalyst to start showing the fact that while we all have differences, we do all have one thing in common, and most of the time it's pets, and use that as a platform to create some type of change.
Samantha, what about you? What's next for Certified Pies?
Well, so we're looking to get into a brick and mortar. That is our biggest next step, is to find a space that works for us, and obviously get a design going. And we'll just kind of what all those details look like. As entrepreneurs and as new business owners, this will be the first time that we are having to deal with contractors and try to work out all those details. So hopefully we'll be in a building and be being successful. I think once that becomes successful, maybe 10 years down the line, we'll work on towards a second location.
Wow, that's fantastic. April, what about you? What's the future look like? I know there's information you can't share, but what's the end goal of FemPAQ? Where do you want to see FemPAQ?
Well, the end goal is to create period equity for all menstruators, not just here in Arkansas, nationally and globally. We've started our fundraising. Actually, we decided to crowdfund because the SEC just changed the policy in regards to that. Before, you had to make, I think, like $250,000 or had over $1 million in the bank before you could invest. But now it's open to everyone. And so if we're going to give up, a piece of our company, we would love to give it to regular people like ourselves, and have the opportunity to invest. So we're actually on the Social Ignite Impact website where people can reserve a spot. We actually just hired a PR person. I'm meeting with her actually after this meeting. And we are also going to be on David Meltzer's 2-Minute Drill next week. So you can catch us on Bloomberg TV or Amazon Prime. Again, the end goal is to help other businesses to understand that, having adequate menstrual hygiene care is a must. Women are some of the biggest consumers in most spaces, and yet those spaces forget about us. And so they don't want to be treated like they treat us. Then how about, at least think about us, be there for us in our time of need. Also education. And so that is another avenue that we're going into, is menstrual health education with schools, and just teaching not just girls, but boys as well, about how that can affect a girl if she gets her period. Don't make fun, just stand for her, be there, give her a jacket or something, let her know what's going on, stand behind her. I had a conversation with a guy once, and I asked him, did he have daughters? And he was like, no, but I have sons. And I said, well, now you can teach your sons, to stand for girls. Because he remembered the girl that everybody made fun of because she got her period. He was like, I could tell you what she was wearing, her name, and that was like almost 20 years ago. So, and I was like, how did that affect her psychologically? Like, you don't know, because that can cause unnecessary anxiety and trauma. And so again, not just our product, but the education behind it as well.
That's fantastic. And I think what you were referring to were the accredited investors. There's lots of requirements around that. So that's fantastic that crowdfunding is an option too. It allows people that are not accredited investors to participate in funding businesses that they support. So I love that. That's so great. I want to look at advice. Sometimes entrepreneurs are hesitant to give advice. You guys are very humble. You don't know everything, so you say, but you know a lot about your specific industries. So I'd love for you to share a piece of advice, maybe a piece of advice you would have given yourself when you first started, or just a piece of advice that you would share with an entrepreneur that's just starting out. And let's start with April on that one.
I would say consistency is key. Persistence, keep going. A lot of successful people I've listened to, the one thing that they always said that they don't know how they got there, but they knew they just didn't stop. They kept going. And that end result got them to where they are. So I would just say consistency is key. Wake up every day doing what you're doing. Oh, and networking. That's another thing. I would say, like, I went to a lot of events, even though I didn't feel like it, but I did it anyway. And that is totally why I'm in the position I am now. So because I attended a Venture Center event. And that's how I ended up in the Scale Challenge. And my life has snowballed from there. So
I love that. And that is so important. You know, it's so hard sometimes to put yourself out there. The idea of networking makes people a little uncomfortable. It's, you know, but it truly is, and especially in the state of Arkansas, it's so important. There's truly like 2 degrees of separation for everybody, and you never know who's going to be wherever you're going to network. So it is so, so important to just show up. And I promise you that the right people will be there. And if they don't know the right person, they'll introduce you to them. So thank you for sharing that, April. Samantha, what about you? What advice do you have for entrepreneurs? We may come back to Samantha. I think she's having some technological issues. We'll go on to Nicole. Nicole, what about you?
I follow April on that consistency, which is not something that I'm always great at. And also figure a way to weave yourself in your business. And what I mean by that is, if I'll just take religion as a backdrop. If you're a religious person, you may not want to put it in the forefront of your business, but you may want to put it in how you implement your business. If you're a hippie like me, or, you know, where you love everybody and everybody is one, then you figure a way to weave that into your business. It'll help you not to get lost. And I think that will help you. It will be your compass and will help ground you. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it.
That's great. What about you, Ayana?
So I would piggyback with what April and Nicole said. And in addition to that, I would just say start now. I think for me, I felt like I needed to know everything before I started my business. But the best thing I did was to start and to trip and to get back up and to keep going. So that goes along with the consistency. And I learned what I needed to know. Also, I just started operating like a business. So getting my books in order, creating an IEN, a separate bank account, you know, just acting like a business. And this isn't for everyone, but I also created a mission statement for my business that aligned with my purpose, and it gave me direction. So like Nicole said, creating a compass for where I wanted to go eventually.
And that is a very important point. I think for any entrepreneur, it is so important to put that mission out there and come back to it. And because so many times you can find yourself having those squirrel moments where you get off track and you don't know if it's right or not. If you come back to your mission statement, the answer is always there. And so I love that. And that's so important for entrepreneurs. Samantha, what advice do you have?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Sorry about that. Of course, technology. I would just say that as you get started with your business, you're going to have a lot of critics. You're going to have a lot of people that want to tell you, how to run your business or how to change your idea to, fit maybe what they, feel like would work. But my advice would be to just trust yourself. Keep going. You may not have the product for that particular person, but you do have a product for somebody, and there's somebody out there that wants your product. So just keep going and know that, all the hard work and effort you're putting in will pay off. So. That's what I would say.
Perfectly said. I couldn't have said it better. I want to move on to this next question, and I want the audience to be a part of this as well. If you have a question for any of these entrepreneurs, feel free to post it in the chat. We'll be sure to ask that towards the end of these questions, and also I'll check Facebook Live and see if there's any questions there. Feel free to ask whatever you'd like as we wrap up these final questions. Want to talk about, basically this is a plug, right? So plug your business. So how can the audience or attendees or anyone that watches this in the future, how can the audience learn more about your product or your service? Ayana, let's start with you.
I need to get better at social media, but please follow me on social media. I'm going to start posting more regularly. That's consistency that I need to work on. But my social media handle is ISEEFLICKSIC And my website is www.ayanabaraka.com, which is also my production company.
Great, and drop that in the chat too, so our participants can check that out at their leisure. But we want to make sure we're able to plug you guys. Nicole, what about you?
So you can find my treats on at www.woofcat, and that's WOOFCAT.pet, PET. I'm also on social media. I'm on Facebook. And I'm also on Instagram. The handle is at WoofCat, WOOFCAT. And I'm usually at the festivals or the farmers market, and you can always reach out and let me know if you want treats, and I'll be more than happy to oblige.
I love that. And go ahead and drop your information in the chat too. We'll put that out there in the universe. April, how do we learn more about your product?
So you guys can visit our website at www.FemPAQ, that's F as in Frank, EMPAQ.com. We have an option where you can donate cases to any organization you would like, or you can sign up to purchase cases for your corporation, your business as well. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at FemPAQ. And yeah, so I post a lot on Instagram. It's usually not about our product, but it's usually about like advocacy. I need to get better on posting our product. So, but yeah, just look us up.
I love that. And go ahead and do the same. Throw your information in that chat. And Samantha, where can we find the pizzas?
If you are in the central Little Rock area or surrounding areas, we are located at 9813 West Markham, Suite B. We're on the back side of the building. So you'll see Andy's Fuller and Son Cheesesteak on Point on the front, and just drive around to the back and you'll see some signs for us. You can download our app, Certified Pies, on Apple or Android Market, Google Play. Our website is www.certifiedpies.com. And you can also find us on Slice. If you are familiar with that, we just set that up so you can find us on Slice for delivery.
Awesome. And go ahead and throw your info in the chat if you haven't already. We've got a couple of questions coming in. We'll knock those out in these last few minutes that we've got. This person wants to know what books or podcasts, what are you reading? What are you listening to? Or do you want to give a shout out to a mentor that's helped you? Let us know. They always love to know books and things that they can soak up knowledge from. So Nicole, let's go.
Probably one of my favorite books is by Jen Sincero. She has two of them. You Are a Badass with Money, and I can't remember the other one. It's a yellow book and a green book. If you have any inkling that you want to be an entrepreneur, those are two books that I would suggest anybody read, or at least listen to them on Audible. And Think and Grow Rich. That's probably my other favorite book.
April, what about you?
Arlen Hamilton, It's About Damn Time, is one of my favorites. Oh God, Traction. I forgot who wrote wrote. I think his name is David Phil, if I'm not mistaken, or he forwarded the book. I'm not sure. But that's another good one. Podcast. So I started listening to How I Built This Before I Built This. One of my favorite podcasts. And then another one is My First Million with Arlen Hamilton. She does a lot of Black and brown entrepreneurs. So I see myself in them. They've gotten to this point. So it really helps refresh that. But those are my favorite podcasts and my favorite books right now.
Awesome. Ayana, what about you?
I cannot remember the name of it, but a friend of mine has a series called Heroes of Color, and he also writes books about being an entrepreneur. So if you find Heroes of Color, it's a children's book series, but the same author created books about entrepreneurship as an artist.
Love that. We'll be sure to look at more information on that one. Samantha, what about you? Book, podcast, mentor you want to give a shout out to?
Oh, listen, I do not do good in the book or podcast area. It is just not one of my things. But I do have a lot of mentors, just other business owners and people just like you guys. I network a lot and meet new people. And I also interact a lot as far as social media wise and stuff. So I honestly just pull from everyone around me. I surround myself just with other entrepreneurs like you guys, or just positive people. And I soak up every little bits and pieces that I can get from different people.
And that's so important. The networking is key. You know, what's a lot of people, I think it's supplemental. You network and you meet all kinds of folks, and then you supplement also with the podcasts and books and things like that. You'll get there eventually. I promise, Samantha. We do have another question that's come through. How do you motivate? How do you keep yourself sane when things get rough? How do you stay focused and centered? Samantha?
You gotta have an off day, I think, to just try to do a little bit of self-care. I think that's something that we've had to, I think, as business owners work on, because we do invest our entire being into, our entrepreneurship and our businesses, because we want it needs to work out. It has to work out. But we've had to change, even just our hours of operation to give ourselves Sunday off, because a lot of us as owners and our that also own certified pods, we still have full-time jobs that we have to manage, families that we have to manage. And that was the day of rest for everyone for everyone on our team. And it's so important for us to do that for everybody that everything's going through, so that we can all come back and work these long days and make sure that we still have the quality that's needed. So just making sure you take that day.
That is important. Take some time for yourself, self-care. And if you need help with that, you can come to a Venture Center workshop on mental health and we can help you with that. April, what about you? How do you stay focused and centered and reduce the stress?
I do a lot of affirmations. Like I said, I always expect no. That's how I get through it, because you're probably going to get more no's than yes. So I have really wrapped my mind around the fact that this is going to be a no, even like when it happens that it's a yes, it's like, oh my God, it's a yes. Like, I didn't expect to win first place. I said in my head that, I didn't win this, And so that's probably not positive, but I focus on like, oh my God, it's going to be a no. Like, that's how I get through it. And like Samantha said, I have to choose like the time to rest. My girls, I have a 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they will let me know, you have been working too long, you need to stop. So they are my moral compass when it comes to that. So yeah, like Samantha said, that day of rest, you definitely need it because you'll get burned out very easily.
I love that. It's a little self-deprecating, but I would also consider it like this kind of ironic. You're an optimistic pessimist. You just prepare yourself for the worst. I love that. Oh, that's funny. Nicole, what about you?
I give myself permission to be stupid. I mean, just to have stupid days, just to be not on point all the time. And then the second thing is that I really have been fortunate enough to have and surround myself with people who keep me grounded, tell me the truth, don't always agree with me, and push me to do better. So.
It is so important to have those people in your corner that they aren't yes people, right? They'll tell you what you need to know, whether you want to hear it or not. Those are the kind of people in life that you want in your corner. So that's I'm so happy you brought that up. Ayana, how do you stay focused and centered and grounded?
So I honestly do all of those things. I prepare myself by being like, oh, I'm probably not gonna win. And then I also I have a great team of people around me, friends, family, where I could just call them up and vent and say, okay, bye. That's it. And Samantha, what you said about giving yourself time, I mean, I used to go late, I used to not sleep sometimes, and I had to tell myself, this is not sustainable. I can't keep doing this. So yeah, so I give myself the day, I give myself an off time. And I also let people know, if you contact me after this time, I'm not going to respond until the next day, because I'm that way. Like, I'll keep going. If you message me, I'll keep going. So I have to tell myself I'm off. I tell other people I'm off. And if you contact me about work related things, you're not going to get a message until tomorrow. So.
Yeah, that all of these points are so important. And I hope any entrepreneurs out there listening, heed this advice. These are folks that have been at it for a little while. They understand, what it's like to be an entrepreneur, and that you do. It's truly important to give yourself time. I think we've over the years have idolized the busyness. It's gotten to a toxic level. I don't think we should aspire to be busy. I aspire to be the people that get the work done and have time to do their own things, right? That's who everyone should aspire to be. And so that's fantastic that you all brought that up. I want to thank you all so much for being a part of today's discussion. I hope it was valuable to those of you listening. I'm so thankful that all of our panelists were able to share and be vulnerable and open up about the highs and lows of being an entrepreneur and what that looks like. Congratulations again to all of you, first, second, third place winners, audience choice. You all deserved it. We are so excited to watch you guys grow and progress, and don't forget about us when you hit it big. We want to be there and support you, whether it's through mentorship or just that humble call that reminds you, this is what you should do, or this is something you should consider. Feel free to reach out to the Venture Center or anybody that's in your corner for that. That's so important. Again, thank you all to our panelists for being a part of today's Lift the Rock. A big thank you to our sponsors, the Little Rock Regional Chamber, Frost Accounting Firm, Simmons Bank, Bright Lindsay Jennings, Central Arkansas Water, and Entergy. Have a fantastic Friday, a great weekend, and we hope to see you all again at one of the Venture Center's future programs. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, ladies. Great job.